Hi, Danhausen here, very nice, very evil, and we're welcoming you to the Potsy and Danhausen show.
Yes.
Correct?
No, it's the Potsy and Tino show.
No. Potsy and Danhausen show, and we take royalties.
Absolutely.
And like, subscribe, comment, and watch it. You better be watching it because we're already here for the cast.
Potsy and Tino show. Talk the facts and let opinions flow. Laughs, hot takes, and maybe a rant. Two best buds with a mic and a plan.
Good evening, everybody. It's the Potsy and Tino show. However, it is only Potsy tonight. Yes, and I'm a little thrown off by that, so I apologize in advance. I am here for our Before Thanksgiving Day episode, but I do want to go ahead and give as much explanation as I think is proper in this time. Tino and his family had a family thing happen this past week, and as such, Tino most likely will not be on the show tonight. With his immediate family, everything is perfectly fine. Just some adjustments and things that they've got to get used to. But I do know that when it comes to what's up with him, Tino and his wife were still planning on going to buy the car this week. They've got their daughter Haley coming in town from Florida. They've got, I believe, his sister coming in town as well. And of course, Matthew and Nicole will be at the gray compound, if you will, celebrating that. But did want to go ahead and say welcome to the Potsy and Tino show. I'm here by myself. Sorry for not doing our normal intro or anything. Again, just a little thrown off tonight. So, but like I said, he's got a lot of stuff going on. I know that this weekend we've got Survivor Series, so there's a good possibility that we'll be getting together for that. And what's going on, Michael? See you in the audience already. Might be asking you for your input tonight. In fact, I'll go ahead and get it right out of the way. I'm going to ask this question throughout the night, and hopefully the people that are in the audience will want to dive in and give us some comments. But what are you thankful for, specifically this year, but then just overall? Like, what are you thankful for? I'll obviously talk about what am I thankful for at some point here, but I want to throw that out there, make sure everybody knows that is one of the things that I am going to be asking tonight, especially since, again, going solo. So not the first time I've done it. Obviously, Danhausen is not going to be here tonight either. But, he wanted to make sure that we played his intro so he can get those monies. I'll tell everybody what's up with me. Still waiting to hear back on the job interview. I knew that it was going to be probably a couple weeks before I actually heard anything back. So thankful for another year. Yes, Michael, I'm with you on that one, brother. Still waiting to hear back, but didn't really expect to hear anything too early or too soon when it came to that anyway. This week, the government is probably taking as much time off as they possibly can, and I don't blame them for it. If you have the opportunity to do it, you should. So other things going on with me, obviously I've been working on Jugular, slowed down a little bit on it this week. I'm at a point now where I think there's going to be some action heavy scenes, and I really got to lay out the plot for the book for the rest of it before we actually before I feel like, okay, let's start drawing more pages, just to make sure that everything looks good, feels good, and then when I draw it, it actually maintains that essence and aura on it. A couple other things. Looks like Zor Saves Christmas should be in stores by December 12th. I believe that is a Wednesday, and I believe that is the Wednesday that it comes out. It's actually supposed to ship, I want to say Wednesday this week. So shops it normally takes about 2 weeks to get it, but with the holiday, could be a couple days late. Who knows? So between the 10th and the 17th, it should be in stores. I will be letting everybody know when I will be at Fight or Flight Comics for their exclusive cover for Zor Saves Christmas and the launch party with that, with Ryan Rhodes, who was the local artist on that cover. I would expect that you'll probably hear me talking about doing it that Saturday. So if the 10th is a Wednesday, then 11th, 12th be the 13th of December that we would be doing a launch party. Though if I get it earlier, we may do it as early as the 6th. You never know. And if that's the case, then people that come out to Fight or Flight Comics will get an early look at the book before it's available in stores nationwide. So I'm kind of excited about that. Other than that, not too much going on with me. I did want to give an update on the cats that I've basically been taking care of recently. Unfortunately, today, one of the little kittens didn't make it. I left for a little while, came back, and he was sitting basically in the parking lot, and he was just, I don't know if he'd been hit by something. I don't know if he'd eaten something that he wasn't supposed to eat. I don't know what the situation was. I tried to look at it from my Ring cam, and it was just off camera, so I wasn't able to see anything. So unfortunately, as far as I know at this point, we've got the mama and we've got one of the kittens still that are coming around. But that was about 3 o'clock, 3:30, about 3:30 this afternoon that I disposed of the body. And it was unfortunate. It's one of those things where, like, I don't know how other people feel about animals, but I am obviously not typically a cat fan, but it's not that I don't like them. I actually really do enjoy cats. It's just I'm allergic to them. So I had to, even when taking care of the kitten and well, just when they're outside, I have to make sure that, I'm not petting them with my hands. And if I am, then I'm washing my hands immediately after coming back in the house, because otherwise I can get sick from it. So, and other people that have that allergy probably know exactly what I'm talking about. But yeah, unfortunately, when I got home today, right in the parking lot area, one of the kittens was, and he definitely had already passed at that point. So I don't know when it happened, how it happened, but yeah. So that was a pretty sad moment today. And just heard from Mr. Helios. I offered him the opportunity to come on the show tonight. So if he messages saying he's interested, then I will let him in. But otherwise, this week is Thanksgiving. A couple things going on with that. I'm having Thanksgiving dinner with my family. So and it's almost like I'm back in retail this week, folks, and I'll give some context on that. By the way, the wrestling stuff tonight isn't going to take nearly as long, but I might go on a rant about AEW just because that's what everybody expects from me. And I apologize for the pauses and everything as I sit here and try to tell Mr. Helios if he wants to come in, he can. The reason why it feels like when I was in retail is because back in the day when I worked at GameStop would actually have us come in at like 6 p.m. on Thanksgiving for starting opening at like 8 or something, and then it became the first year it was 6 p.m. and we would open at 8, and we were open like 8 to midnight, and then the second year it was like we opened at 6 p.m. so like the employees had to be there at like 4 p.m. So all of a sudden Thanksgiving dinner was like Thanksgiving breakfast or brunch. And this year my sister and brother-in-law have to be at the airport to go overseas at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, because I think their flight is at 3 or 3:30, so they want to be there by 1 because of travel time on holidays a lot of times is a lot different. So we're going to be having our Thanksgiving dinner at 11 a.m. on Thursday, which I guess is okay. It opens up the rest of the day for anything else and everything else. So I'm not that disappointed by it, but so if anybody is going out or anything like that on Thursday, let me know. I may very well be available. And some people know the spot that I normally hit up when I do go out on that day. So Friday is there's college football. I think there's even pro football on Friday this year. Saturday is going to be a pretty interesting day for me. So you folks know I'm a Notre Dame football fan. You can see the green hat right about there. Yeah, right there. I'm a Notre Dame football fan. They're 9-2 going into the final week of the season against Stanford, and ESPN, I think I mentioned it last week, ESPN decided we're going to give you the worst possible time slot ever. We're going to give you the 10:30 p.m. Eastern time slot for your final game of the season. I don't know if this is to hope that Notre Dame loses the game. I don't know if it's to get better ratings late night television. I don't know what the deal is. But the fact of the matter is, it is a insanely late football game. And for those that know me, Notre Dame football, if they're playing at Notre Dame, if it's a day game, they play it at 3:30 at the latest, sometimes even at 2:30, but they don't ever seem to go before that time. And they only go after that time if they're doing the 7 p.m. or 8 p.m. game for the primetime games. They just don't like Notre Dame. Michael, it's funny because Notre Dame obviously has their NBC football contract, which gets 8 of the games a season. And then ESPN normally gets 3 or 4 of the 3 or 4 other games that they have. So it really, you're right. They don't, and it's because ESPN doesn't make all the money off of them. But the team typically puts together a solid squad, which means ESPN wants them on TV because they get ratings. So with that, their final game of the season, Stanford in California. Yeah, they're gonna be playing it at 10:30 p.m. Now, the other things going on that day, right before that, because I think it'll be over right around 10:30 p.m., is Survivor Series, which I think has a 6 p.m. start time this year. It might be 7, but it's going to be somewhere between 6 and 7. So I'll be watching Survivor Series before I watch the Notre Dame football game. But even before that, my nephew turns 21 on Saturday, and he has asked me specifically if I'll go out and have a couple beverages with him. So I will be taking an Uber out. We've already picked out the spot. We'll be there at 4:00. And so I will be drinking alcohol legally with my nephew, I think before anybody else. So a pretty special moment. Michael, I do think it might be 7 p.m. for the for the WWE PLE. I see we have other people in the audience. I'm going to go ahead and put this other banner up one more time. I'm going to let everybody know multiple times that since I am going solo tonight, if there are things that you are thankful for all the time because of Thanksgiving, like that's something that everybody talks about. If you're thankful for anything specific, but more than anything, what you're thankful for in 2025 as we get ready to close out the year, and put it in the comments. I'll make sure that we make conversation out of it and go from there. Michael already said he's thankful for having another year, and he turned 50 this year. So like congrats on that, Michael. And unfortunately, folks, I don't talk about this a lot, but on the show, obviously you guys see me going for my water or my soda or my Woodford Reserve over here. And the reason why you'll see me going for the shot of alcohol is because I don't know what it is. This time of year, my throat dries out, and you'll start hearing my voice crack and all this other stuff. And like I get told all the time when I'm running trivia every week that I've got the perfect voice for it. And of course, I sit here and I talk like this and I'm kidding. I actually still just do my normal voice, but for the most part, it is one of those things where like you'll hear it as my voice starts to dry out or whatever, and that's why I've got to do something about that. So it's not just because I like indulging and getting drunk on the show. Some shows that is what people like to do. If anybody wants to do a show where we sit there and we talk about bourbon all the time, I'd be down. But let's go into some of the other topics we always talk about. Weekly television watching. A lot of shows have already gone on what I would call mid-season hiatus. Normally they do that, they come on in September, then they come back in like either late January, early February. Some of the shows have already done that. Other shows have decided they're going to take some little time off, then come back, and they wonder why their ratings go down. And one of those sets of shows is Law and Order. Just recently, I think episode 8 of this season's Law and Order and Law and Order SVU, they both hit this past week. But the week before that, an episode hit. But then, like, for 2 weeks before that, there were no episodes. So I didn't even know that we had 2 new episodes of Law and Order to be able to watch, because I thought they were already on mid-season hiatus. Apparently they weren't. They were just taking a couple weeks off so they could spread them out, put a couple of them in December and in November and whatever. Kind of give you a little present there. I don't know. So I'm caught up on those. Tracker and Watson, I think I'll be watching at least one of them tomorrow, maybe both of them. Welcome to Derry. If you guys haven't watched this show, it's the It prequel series that also includes the character of Dick from The Shining in it as a psychic that the military hires to go in and actually try to find where it is. But it all takes place, I believe, in the 50s, because the new movies happened in like the 80s and then the 2010s. So it's really interesting because it isn't necessarily like for the first half of the season, you didn't even see the It character or Pennywise. You would just see different things that everybody was scared of. And the creator of this show, Andy Muschietti, was talking about it in one of those after show things where he's like, I didn't want to put Pennywise in an episode 2. I didn't want to put him in an episode 4. I wanted it to be a surprise when he actually shows up. And then on top of that, when he actually shows up, I want to show like a really cool way of having him first appear. So I'm not going to even tell you if he appears yet, but I really like that concept of it isn't all about Pennywise, which is why the book, It, isn't called Pennywise. It's called It, because nobody knows what it is. So they even give it like a name, like a type of creature or I can't think what other thing it could be called, but what kind of creature Native Americans would have called it. So kind of like how the predators are actually called the Yautja. So it's just one of those things. I did actually see a movie this week. I saw The Running Man with Glenn Powell. A lot of people have been complaining online saying that they're tired of remakes. This one's a little different, and there's a specific reason why it's different. It's because Edgar Wright decided he wanted to actually adapt the book of The Running Man. Because the movie starring Arnold Schwarzenegger, the first one in the 80s, wasn't able to do the book justice. It specifically made sure that it took the concept of a guy running for his life for a certain amount of time and winning so much money that his family gets out of poverty. Sure, that's the basic concept of the whole thing. Stay alive, win money. There's been other movies like that, like Rollerball and Death Cube and all these other ones. But the Jumanji, they didn't win money, but they got out of the game. So this one is it tries to maintain semblance of what the book was about, which is really cool to me. Glenn Powell, I think, is a great actor. I think some of the side actors that they decided to put in it, like Michael Cera, worked really well when you would have thought, okay, well, that's an interesting choice, but it worked. So I recommend the film, actually, if you want to see something that's a little bit different, has a concept that you know, and just kind of goes somewhere new. They do change the end, and I won't explain. Well, I'll put it this way: they had to change the end because people are still sensitive about 9/11, so they changed the end. Otherwise, I thought the movie was fun. I highly recommend it, or at least I recommend it. I don't know if I highly recommend it. Um, Hoping to possibly go see Sisu Road to Revenge tomorrow. Uh, Anybody that saw the first one of those should know that like it's it's like John Wick fighting Nazis in the 40s, and I don't even think the guy says anything throughout the entire movie. And a group of Nazis are trying to steal his fortune that he finds while he's just all by himself in the lonesome. And then they find out he's a guy called like the Ghost, and he goes on this murderous rampage of all of the Nazis because they keep coming after him. So he just keeps killing them. And they talk about how like he fought against the Russians, and when he did that, he killed like 175 of them all by himself. So like this guy isn't to be fucked with. So I thought that's the second one. The really cool thing about it is I talk about this guy all the time, Stephen Lang, who was in that movie Don't Speak. He was Ike Clanton in Tombstone, my favorite movie of all time. He was the bad guy in Avatar. It's funny, he went from "Law don't work around here, Law Dog" to "Welcome to Pandora. I'm going to destroy this civilization." Like he's that much range. And then of course he played a blind guy in Don't Speak. So yeah, he plays the bad guy. He plays a Russian. So I'm kind of interested to see how that movie is. It's only like an hour and a half long, so I don't want to pay full price for it. So I'll go to the $7 movie if I am going to see it. But anyways, those who aren't watching Landman, I can't stress it enough. I think it's great. And then of course, Tulsa King finished this week. They kind of backdoor piloted, if you know what that means. It means that they kind of run a different character. They give you some backstory on this new character and everything, basically going, hey, we're going to launch a TV show for that character as well. They did it with Bosch. For those that watch Bosch, they did it with Ballard. She came in, she was investigating Bosch, and then all of a sudden she had to work with him, and turns out he's not a half bad guy. So then she gets her own show, and then he shows up from time to time as a PI in that one. Tulsa King, Samuel L. Jackson's character shows up. He plays basically the world's greatest hitman. He gets hired to take down Stallone's character. Doesn't want to do it. Kind of wants out of the business, and Stallone helps him get out of the situation. So it was kind of cool. And then of course they finish up with their bourbon situation, bourbon story, whatever you want to call it. But I was enjoying it. The series itself, like, it's dumb fun. It's not super smart. I always think it's funny when you hear Stallone's character sit there and like quote The Art of War, and you're like, come on, man, really? You play a gangster? Is it cool to know that stuff? Sure. Just showing that you're an educated man. You spent 25 years in the joint. Half the books there probably had pages missing. Anyways, I digress. So you know what? I think I'm going to talk about what I'm thankful for now, because I'll give us a little more time doing this, and then I'll jump into the pro wrestling side of the show. I am very thankful for my family. I'm like any family, we have our issues, but I wouldn't be here today without them. My sister and brother-in-law, love them to death. My mom, obviously, like most negative person you'll ever meet. I talk about that a lot. Like one time, I was like, Mom, come on, admit it, you're negative. And she goes, I am not negative. So I called her out on giving a double negative to tell me that she's a positive person, which I still find hilarious. you know, my dad's in a tough situation with his and everything, but um, you know, it's sorry, just getting a message. Um, you know, my dad's on the downswing, and at 78 years of life, he had 48 good years of life, and now 30 where he's been in this situation, and now it's starting to get worse. It's bound to happen. Um, when the stroke happened in the 90s, like he was told, we were told not to expect him for any great length of time, and he's still here. So, uh, really thankful for the comic book stuff that I've got going on, both in the past and now. Um, you know, it was really something special to be nominated for an award this year for Zor, and for Michael and I to come together again and say that we wanted to work more on the character. So we did Zor Saves Christmas coming out. I couldn't be happier with the partner that I've worked with on that book. Michael is just an amazing person to work with. I can't stress that enough, and I wouldn't be surprised if he's getting phone calls about coloring, since he was also up for the award for best colorist. Working with Eric Kent, you know, who I worked on Junior High Horrors with, and currently working on Stalkered with. I love it. You know, the fact that he's getting motivated to get back into that and working on the pages um, is awesome to me. You know, we did the first issue over a year ago, and you know, I messaged him and said, "Hey, you know, we haven't talked in a little while. I know that you're working on other projects, but I wrote issue 2. You want to hop in on it?" And he's like, "Absolutely. Let me jump in on it when I get a chance." And he's working on some cool stuff too. So you know, him making time for it is just awesome. Getting motivated to want to draw again, you know, doing the layouts for Zor Saves Christmas made me want to sit there and actually draw a book. So, you know, like I said, it's slowed down a little bit. um Jay Hammond, my partner on Died Hard, constantly messages me going, "So what page you on? Where you at? What page you on? Where you at?" And you know, like, that's the type of motivation you need sometimes. At the same time, since I'm not working on any kind of pacing or anything, it's something where, like, I'd rather it be good, so I'd rather be motivated to get a page done here and there, 2 pages some days, you know, different things like that. Um, Thankful for my health, you know, like uh going to the doctor and hearing that, you know, my A1C had gone down, and I wasn't anywhere near diabetic at this point. Finding out that, you know, like my other levels, even the ones that were elevated, were okay. And of course, my cholesterol sucks, but it's just the bad cholesterol. Well, the good cholesterol's too low. The bad cholesterol's right where it needs to be. So I don't even know how to move up that other one. So, um, you know, thankful to have a roof over my head, all that good stuff. But really thankful for you guys as well, because like without you, why would we do the Potsy and Tino show? Um, so I really want to make sure that I express that. I know that Tino is also thankful for you guys, Michael, Chris Barrett, Terrence, Ray, uh, any numbers of the other people that have popped in there, everyone that's made a comment on the show. It's always been super, and we appreciate it more than you know. Just to have some motivation to continue doing the show on a regular basis is awesome. And knowing that we've now done it for, what are we at? We're at 433 episodes this week. So gotta say that's something to be thankful for as well. So all right, folks, I am now going to jump into some of these wrestling shows, because that's what we do on the Potsy and Tino show. So um oh, one other piece of news when it comes to what we watch and everything else. I don't know if anybody's been paying attention to it, but Warner Brothers Discovery is looking for a buyer. And what that means is that AEW, depending on who the partner ends up being, could continue their contract until it runs out, which I would anticipate, but may have to find a new home after that contract's up. Could also need new streaming homes or anything else when you consider the fact that if Warner Brothers Discovery, which owns HBO Max, gets bought by Paramount Plus, you would think that Paramount would sit there and absorb it into the Paramount Plus model. So who knows what they would do there? You know, just saying on that. But it's pretty interesting to think that Warner Brothers Discovery and HBO just became a company, and now they're already looking to sell to someone else. So, oh, yes, Michael, that is a very good point. I'll even create a banner for that. And folks, what Michael's alluding to is close personal friend of us and junior high horrors. We lost Louis Small Jr. last week, and the news was kind of a shock to most of the comic book world because he had been posting on social media as early as like 6 days before it. For those that don't know, Louis Small Jr. was an artist for Harris Comics on Vampirella back in the day, as well as other projects, but that's what he was most known for. And was also a teacher of art, so people would actually take classes with him. I think he actually worked at a school specifically doing it. But when I first created Junior High Horrors, we would do signings at a specific store out in Rocky Mount, and Louis was from the area. So Louis came into the store the first time we were doing one of the signings for it, and that shop did an exclusive cover from Louis of Junior High Horrors. So when we found out this week that the world had lost him, I went ahead and I posted the image again, and I posted it in just the black and white artwork that he delivered to us. He did color it as well, but I posted just the black and white piece because I found it on the Louis Small Jr. art page. So with that, I do want to take, just a couple seconds to sit there and thank him for what he did for me and my career, being one of the first people that we worked with to create a exclusive variant cover, but also just how good of a person he was to us. And Michael knows him too. So knowing that Louis passed away is tough on us. So I'm going to take a second. I don't know if Louis was a drinker, but I'll raise my glass to him as well. Michael, thank you for reminding me of that. I completely had misplaced it on my list of things that I needed to talk about tonight. So thank you for that. I did make a post about it on my Facebook, as did so many other people. So if you knew him and didn't know about it, now you do. Reach out to the family. I want to say that they were, I want to say the first week of December, the second week of December is when they're going to actually have the viewing and everything else. So I didn't think it was happening overnight or anything. So all right. Now I'm going to jump into pro wrestling results. And I hope you don't mind, folks, the way that I'm going to break this down. I'm going to talk about Monday Night Raw, NXT, SmackDown, and then I'm going to talk about the AEW pay-per-view instead of talking about all of the AEW stuff that happened this week. And the reason why is because people want to know the results of the pay-per-view. And when the pay-per-view happens after the regular shows, the regular shows don't really have a lot of insight anymore because you're hoping new storylines are going to start and whatever from them. So going to jump right into Monday Night Raw. We'll let everyone know that when it comes to AEW and Dynamite, Warner Brothers Discovery has put out a new schedule for AEW Dynamite and Collision throughout the month of December. It includes a Saturday, December 13th edition of Collision being at 4:30 in the afternoon. Which, by the way, if I'm reading this correctly, is the same day that Saturday night's main event happens with John Cena's final match at 7 p.m. from Washington. So they are purposely making sure that any wrestling fan should be able to watch WWE Saturday night's main event on December 13th. The pre-Christmas edition of Collision. So on December 17th, they're doing Dynamite and Collision from 8 to 11. And then a countdown for World's End will happen at 11 p.m. And then the December 20th episodes, am I reading that right? Oh, the December 24th edition of Dynamite, the 34th Street, or Dynamite on 34th Street will be at 6 p.m. on TBS. Collision will actually happen on Christmas at 9 p.m. on TNT. And both of those shows will be from the Manhattan Center. So that's why they're saying it's the Dynamite on 34th Street. So there's an update on Dynamite and Collision throughout the month of December. Look up your local listings. If you're like me, just watch it at the same time or watch it the next day on Max, and you won't have any issues with that. But yeah, it's all over the place for the rest of the month. Michael, absolutely, and I think some of that has to do with the fact that they start showing A Christmas Story at 9:00 on Wednesday, so they're going to do 9:00 to 9:00 on Thursday, and that's when you're going to have Collision on Christmas Day. I could be wrong, but I think that's what the plan is for that. So now I'm going to jump into Monday Night Raw results. For those of you that either didn't watch it or whatever, I'm going to give my opinions on what happened on the show as it went down. So the show starts out with it being John Cena's. By the way, it was from the world's most famous arena, Madison Square Garden, last week. John Cena had defeated Dominic Mysterio the week before in Boston for the Intercontinental title. He comes out and it ended up bringing out Dominic Mysterio again, and Dominic ended up saying that he wants his rematch for the Intercontinental title, to which John Cena basically told him, "You can have it right here, right now." And Dominic said, "No, you got your match with me in your hometown, so you had home field advantage. So I want my rematch at Survivor Series for, in my hometown, so I have home field advantage." And it's going to be interesting to hear at Survivor Series how that crowd reacts to Dom Mysterio, because recently Dom's been getting a lot of babyface pops, even though they're trying to do everything they can to keep him as a heel. So it's a little interesting. Michael, I totally agree. The crazy AEW stuff. This, however, ended up bringing out JD McDonough and Finn Balor as well, which meant that John Cena was all alone against three heels, which ended up bringing out Sheamus and Rey Mysterio, which set up a six-man tag match for later in the night. And I'll just go ahead and talk about this match right now. The six-man match, hopefully some of you out in the audience have been to a WWE house show, because this six-man match felt exactly like what you expect from an after Christmas house show. And I say after Christmas because for them, it's either the after Christmas time or the right after WrestleMania time. where they've put so much effort into everything all year long that when they come out of their little Christmas break or whatever, they're kind of still just having fun with the booking. So the match here with the 6-man was like that. You know, you had specific things going on, like all 3 members of John Cena's team doing the 10 beats to the Belfry. You had all 3 of them getting ready to do the 5-knuckle shuffle. You had just craziness like that going on in the match, but the crowd was electric for it. And when you're at a house show, it's not always that way, but I think everybody in Madison Square Garden knew, hey, we paid so much money to be here that we're going to have fun with this. And they had fun with it. And it was great. And I hope everybody else feels the same way, because I thought the match really stood up for what it was. And even Bleacher Report gave the match an A. The only thing that would have made John Cena's final Raw appearance better is if he was in the main event. And it's interesting because I kind of feel like he's telling everybody that since his time's almost up, he wants to be done so he can watch the rest of the show. Michael, I'll talk about the actual final Survivor Series teams in a minute. And Bleacher Report said it was a fun part style bout featuring hot action, signature moves, finishers, and the right team going over. Backstage after the match, you ended up having Paul Heyman telling Adam Pearce and Nick Aldis that if you thought Drew McIntyre being added to his Vision team for Survivor Series, then you're going to really hate his final choice. And that kind of just gave it away. If you thought there was anybody else it could have been, I was pretty surprised, but that they gave it away the way they did. So Stephanie Vaquer comes out to actually have another conversation, which ends up bringing out Nikki Bella immediately, and she just jumps her, which I don't know what they're trying to do here. Last time is now tournament. Solo Sikoa comes out, and then the music hits for none other than Dolph Ziggler. So no Joe Hendry in this tournament. No really super big, massive surprise. It was someone who had been with the WWE before and is part of their programming partnership with TNA. And so Bleacher Report gave this match a C. And I want to say the only reason why I felt like this match deserves a C is because they absolutely could have taken this moment to put Dolph Ziggler over, because he is a former 2-time WWE champion. Even if you didn't know Dolph Ziggler was still wrestling today, he's still a former 2-time WWE champion. So him going over Solo would have been awesome. I did like how much Dolph Ziggler sold for Solo Sikoa. It made Solo Sikoa look like so much more of a monster in this moment. And again, unfortunately, WWE went the easy way by having their person win the match. But, it's one of those moments where you really kind of hoped it could have been something a little different. Alexa comes out, cuts a promo, which brings out Rhea Ripley, Charlotte Flair, and Io Sky, because it also brings out Nia Jax, Lash Legend, and the Kabuki Warriors. And it does kind of feel that Flair is going to be on the team now. So, and even if she is, it still leaves room for one more, which brings us to our next match, which is the return bout of Maxine Dupree versus Becky Lynch. This match was fine for what it was. And in fact, I think exactly what I said 2 weeks ago happened at Madison Square Garden, which was, I believe I distinctly said, I could picture AJ Lee coming down to the ring, costing Becky Lynch the Intercontinental title to Maxine Dupree. I believe that's exactly what I said. And that's what happened. And the match was fine. It was not even the best match these two have had. I felt like the last match with Maxine was a much better match. This one looked like she was nervous, and I mean she's still green as goose shit in the ring, so it's okay to be nervous. And it was a fun match, and we got the return of AJ Lee, costing Becky Lynch the match. So I was fine with that, right? What puts the icing on the cake here is if you've been paying attention to Becky Lynch's social media accounts. If you have not, you need to. She has been striking gold and oil with everything she's saying. She immediately went on social media to claim that WWE was in a conspiracy to get the belt off of her. And I got to tell you, her conversation about it is sound. This is what she said. She said, if a wrestler runs out from the back, their music doesn't automatically hit. So someone backstage hit her music. So they knew she was going out there. It's a conspiracy, guys. Becky Lynch has a conspiracy against her to have her lose that title. And now she's claiming she never lost the title because in the state of New York, for a manager to be ringside, so a person to be at ringside claiming to be a manager, they have to have an official management license to be a manager. And without that, the match is forfeit. And on her social media, she has gone so far as to basically be walking around the streets of New York talking to New York lawyers and trying to get them to take her case and saying things are going the right way. Things are coming up straight, or things are coming up Becky. She's actually coined a new phrase. Things come up Becky when they're going great. So I thought that's been amazing. And it's been all week. Like, you can go on there right now. Adam Pearce has been posting on his social media to sit there and say that he's tired of Becky Lynch leaving him 39 messages. It's been pretty great. Next up, we got another match in the Last Time Is Now tournament, which was Javon Evans versus Gunther. There were 3 ways this match could have went. There was going to be the long, drawn-out match to make sure that they give each guy their flowers. There's the Gunther squashes him in 10 seconds. Or there's the I can't believe Javon Evans just got a roll-up win. Well, they decided to go with the first one. They gave this match time. They gave it everything that it needed, except for one thing. Javon Evans was waiting in the ring without his entrance before Gunther came out. So he was given the squash lead in. Even though they did a video package to show what Javon Evans was all about, they didn't let him come out to his entrance. So no one should have expected him winning this match. No one. And we didn't have him win the match. Gunther defeated Evans, but Evans put on a hell of a show. Gunther came out to his original music. which was nice to see. And then we got, to end Raw, we got the War Games face-off with the men's teams, which at this point, Michael was already mentioning he doesn't like them. The one team is Braun Breaker, Bronson Reed. So you got the Brons, Logan Paul, Drew McIntyre, and finalized on either SmackDown from the week before or here on Raw, the good guy team is Cody Rhodes, Jey Uso, CM Punk, and Jimmy Uso. And instead of this becoming like an actual face-to-face, let's talk things through, blah, 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 this became a straight up, let's just start hitting each other, which I'm fine with. And just as it looked like CM Punk was getting the upper hand, Brock Lesnar's music hits, and he comes down to the ring and proceeds to knock the pompadour off of CM Punk, basically. And just as he's looking at Paul Heyman and shaking his hand, and they put up on the screen the executive producer, Triple H, and Lee Fitting, who I have no idea who Lee Fitting is, but Triple H and Lee Fitting, Roman Reigns' music hits, and he comes running down to the ring. And he Superman punches the pants off of Brock Lesnar, which causes security to come out, and all the 10 wrestlers take out security. So Raw goes off the air with the NYPD getting blasted by Roman Reigns as he spears Bronson Reed through the barricade on the side. A spot we've seen a million times, and yet it always looks like $1 million. And that's how it goes off the air. But then after it went off the air, you actually saw all of the wrestlers beating up the NYPD as they were trying to get their hands on everybody else. So I almost wonder if Monday Night Raw or if SmackDown should have started with all of these guys are currently in jail together, which would have been hilarious. Or if somehow they'll forget that a bunch of those guys showed up on SmackDown and they'll, be in jail when Raw starts. I'm sure it'll be the general managers had to go and bail them all out, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And that's how they'll spin it. Who knows? But yeah, so that was Monday Night Raw. If I had to say, I'd give it a B. Like Michael said, I'm not a big fan of the War Games teams. The men's Samoan team, because now there's 3 Samoans on it. The issue I have with that is that team is exactly the same as last year, except it was Sami Zayn in that group instead of Cody Rhodes. This year it's Cody Rhodes. So it's a little disappointing there. NXT this week took place from the theater at Madison Square Garden, so a smaller portion of the world's most famous arena, and it was part of their Gold Rush. And it started with Chelsea Green and Ethan Page, the AAA Mixed Tag Champions, versus Joe Hendry and Thea Hale. And, pardon me, for those that don't know, it looks like Joe Hendry is now a full-time member of the WWE roster. I know I tried to turn off my microphone and it probably still let the sneeze through because I'm probably using a different microphone. So I apologize for that. Let me see. Yeah. Hopefully you guys can still hear me. But yes, Joe Hendry is now a full-time member of the WWE. At least that's what everybody's saying. And I have to say that this week, WWE Supercard announced its first Joe Hendry Supercard for the in-game roster. So I have to think that because the only other TNA member that's ever been part of it has been Abyss. And obviously Joseph Parks works for WWE backstage. So Michael Turner is saying that he likes Chelsea Green inside and outside the ring. I absolutely agree with you. She not only says some of the dumbest yet funniest shit, she is one of their best performers and willing to do anything like Dolph Ziggler to get someone else over. So I 100% am with you on that. This match, Chelsea Green and Ethan Page versus Joe Hendry and Thea Hale. It was fine for what it was. If you saw the match, you know what I'm talking about. Ethan Page and Chelsea Green looked like $1 million working together, and Joe Hendry and Thea Hale look like they just met each other a couple weeks ago inside the ring. Outside the ring, their vignettes and their little packages that they've put together have been amazing. So this was fun, but I don't know if I'd want to keep it going forever. I think having Joe Hendry as a singles is probably the most important thing, because you're probably paying him main roster money to be in NXT right now. We got Blake Monroe going up against a returning Sol Ruca, who is wearing a knee brace. And Monroe did the right thing by working on the knee. She ends up winning the match because I'm trying to read what they said. Zarya ends up throwing in the towel because it looks like Sol Ruca just can't go anymore, and yet it adds that why would you do that to me moment. And I don't know if we're gonna see Zarya turn heel or Sol turn heel, but one of them is definitely gonna turn heel here. And if I had to guess, it's gonna be Zarya, because Sol Ruca just has that look like you always want to push her as a babyface. She's got Charlotte Flair appeal in terms of body structure and how she moves in the ring, but she's more attractive than Charlotte. So, like, I could see Sol Ruca being the next Charlotte Flair. Then we had Dark State versus Leon Slater and Javon Evans. Dark State ends up beating them, which is a little surprising, but it's because there was some miscommunication between the two high flyers. And obviously, this is meant to set them up to have a match against each other again. Tatum Paxley versus JC Jane. This was your main event of the night. And Tatum Paxley had the women's NXT title for just a couple weeks after beating JC Jane for it. Said she wanted to be a fighting champion, so she gave the former champion her rematch. And just as we would have expected, the culling turns on Tatum Paxley, which, I don't know, Michael, what's your opinion on this? I feel like it really allows Tatum to become a monster babyface underdog. And I'm thinking that, hey, giving her the rub to show her that you do care about her as an NXT performer is one thing by giving her the championship, but now it's about really making people buy into that character and really selling this new approach of now she's all alone against one of the biggest groups in NXT. So it's going to be interesting to see how they continue that going and how it moves forward from there. But I am excited to see what's going to happen with her, because there was a short time ago that I'd have been like, yeah, I don't care about Tatum Paxley. She plays with dolls in the back, big deal. And now they've got me actually caring about her. So good, kudos to NXT for being able to do that, because again, I would have thought it would have been tough to do that. So there we go with that. Now we're going to jump into SmackDown results from this week. Again, I told everybody, don't expect an hour and a half show or anything, because me talking just by myself, not asking someone else's opinion, always makes it go faster. So hopefully my pacing has been fine. I've been trying to make sure that I keep a pretty even keel going the entire time. and Michael agrees that yeah, JC Jane is main roster material, and I think we're really going to see that with what she ends up doing with the title from now until she could hold the NXT Women's Championship through Mania, but I have a feeling they're going to start something between her and like a Jordan Grace here shortly. SmackDown opening segment was Paul Heyman, the Bronze, and Logan Paul coming to the ring to hype their War Games team. The Usos interrupted. Cody Rhodes interrupts. Drew McIntyre interrupts. Because Cody Rhodes doesn't make it out to there because Drew McIntyre knocks him out on his own bus. Here's something that a lot of people on the internet are noticing and talking about, and I think it was done on purpose. A lot of people think that it was done because he just doesn't care as much. Logan Paul had his 5 things written on his hand, and he even started pointing at them as he got ready to talk about them. This was done because it's a great heel move. Like, he's basically saying, I didn't have time to learn a speech. I don't care about the speech. And knowing that he wrote the speech down on his hand and then wasn't even allowed to say it just makes it so much better. And for those of you that think that this wasn't done on purpose and that he was taking the easy way out and just writing down his notes on his hand, it's bullshit. But I am going to point out that just I think last week or the week before, we were talking about how FTR, how I believe it's Dax Harwood had written Spanish words down on his hand. So when he was talking to Bandito's mother, he was able to sit there and say certain things in Spanish so he could have his own abuelita. So keep that in mind. Ilya Dragunov doing his United States tournament thingy. I love what they're doing with Ciampa here. And Ciampa says that, like when he's ready for a real man, come up and face him. But JD McDonough's the one that actually takes the call. The match was great. Ilya doesn't have a bad match, but they have to give him a better finisher. The H-bomb is the absolute worst finisher I've ever seen. And for someone that you can go back and watch 2020 matches where it was him and Walter at that point. You can go back and watch matches with him and Walter, who's Gunther now, and chopping the ever-loving shit out of each other and making it sound like exploding gunshots going off. The H-bomb has to go. I don't care if they just give him the clothesline from hell. He needs a better finisher. His finisher's trash, and for someone that you're trying to get over as a big time young star, him landing on the people and basically making it look like he's passed out on top of them, it's not a good look. Does end up beating McDonough. Hell of a match. McDonough is probably one of the most underrated talents in the entire WWE, and he's got a big head. He's got a big head. That's all I can say about it. The last time is now tournament match, Carmelo Hayes versus Bronson Reed. And I'm going to say this is the first match in that tournament that I was surprised. I expected Bronson Reed to tsunami the shit out of Carmelo Hayes. And Carmelo Hayes snuck out with a win. Now, they announced that the second round is Carmelo Hayes versus Gunther, so good luck with that one, kid. But still, surprised to see Carmelo Hayes take this one down. Match was fine for what it was. Not a bad match, not a stellar match, but what they ended up doing here was, as Paul Heyman started interrupting the referee and getting him distracted, Cody Rhodes came out and took out Bronson Reed's leg, rolled him into the ring. Carmelo Hayes ended up getting the win. And remember how I was just talking about what they're doing with Tommaso Ciampa? Well, WWE's on this kick right now where they're giving people back their original entrance music. And the best entrance song in pro wrestling, hands down, is Tommaso Ciampa's "No One Will Survive." And he comes out to that. Yes, Michael, JD McDonough is a pop vinyl. He 100% is a pop vinyl. He actually had a really good post on social media this week where Fanatics posted something saying names like something like we'll give out a free hat for anybody that or to like one lucky winner of blah blah blah. Just retweet this and put in the comments. And JD McDonough sent back a reply that was like, "Large, please." I thought that, like he's finally accepting it. Like, he has a big head. I think it's because the guy is supposed to be about 30 pounds heavier, and he's not. He's super fit, but he's got a head like mine. Like, because I'm fat, me having a fat head is fine. If I get skinny, I can't have this fat head anymore. I'm gonna have to have a skinny head. We'll figure that one out if that ever happens. But I thought that was funny that he made a joke himself. But the DIY versus Fraxium match, as I mentioned, No One Will Survive hits. Tommaso Ciampa comes out. And then they actually played the original version of Johnny Gargano's music as well. I can't remember what it's called off the top of my head, but it's a much better version than the version that when he actually returned to WWE. So very pleased to see them going back to some of the old musics. Whereas Zack Ryder, when he came in, they played a brand new version of O Radio, and I thought it was terrible. Like, they should have definitely played the original version. DIY defeats Fraxium. They ended up getting a cheap win when Candice LeRae took off Axiom's mask and Gargano rolled him up for the pin. So pretty cool there. And then in our final first round match of the Last Time Is Now tournament, Penta versus Finn Balor in a first time ever match. And I'm going to say this one wasn't really a surprise, considering Penta is being pushed as a singles wrestler and Balor's being pushed as a tag wrestler right now. Penta goes over in another solid match. So I was not disappointed by the match at all. He went for the coup de grace, missed it, and then got hit with a destroyer like immediately after for the victory. And surprisingly, I believe they ended SmackDown with that match. They didn't have any of the Survivor Series stuff after that, so it wasn't anything to do with the the men's teams or anything. So, whew, okay. Now, does anybody want me to talk about the? Oh, there we go. Anybody want me to talk about the AAA Alliances results? Because it looks like Javon Evans wins by a pinfall over Javon Evans versus Axiom versus Octagon Jr. in a triple threat match. The winner becomes the number one contender for the Cruiserweight Championship. So Javon Evans wins that match. Next up, I'm gonna go ahead. Sorry, I forgot to put the banner up for this. Second match was Psycho Circus versus El Oyo with Dorian Roland in an 8-man tag match. I don't even know who most of those people are, I'm sure. I do know who Pagano is. So Psycho Circus won that match. That makes a lot of sense. Third match was Ethan Page and Chelsea Green versus Mr. Iguana and Lola Vice for the AAA Mixed Tag Team Championships. And I'm gonna say I'm a little surprised by the result here, but I'm happy with it. Ethan Page and Chelsea Green get another win in the same week. Next match up was Dominic Mysterio and El Grande Americano versus Vikingo and Dragon Lee. And I believe the winners were Dominic Mysterio and El Grande Americano. So there you go. That was the latest AAA results. Now that I did that, we can jump into Full Gear. We can jump into Full Gear, everybody, after I take a little sip here. All right. Now, those that know AEW pay-per-views know that they go on forever. And this one was no different. They started it with their pre-show with a $200,000 prize, the BBG versus the Outrunners versus Bowens and Caster versus Big Bill and Brian Keith. Just as you'd expect, this match was a train wreck. So much going on. And Juice Robinson and one of the Guns defeated the other guys for $200 or $200,000. Dalton Castle joined in support of the Outrunners, which I think is pretty funny. Then there was a tailgate brawl. And I don't know what they're doing here, but they brought back Big Boom Justice or whatever his name is. And this time, and this shows just how often I don't watch Collision or anything on AEW's YouTube channel. But it was Big Boom AJ versus and QT Marshall. So the guy that he fought against at last year, I think's Full Gear. They were together in a tag team this time against the Don Callis family's Roppongi Vice, or RPG Vice as they're known in AEW. And just as you would expect, Big Boom AJ and QT Marshall defeated Trent Beretta and Rocky Romero. Paul White did commentary in support of the Costco guys. Wow. Okay, then is when things started to get interesting. We had another tailgate brawl. This was Eddie Kingston and Hook versus the Workhorsemen. I don't even know who the Workhorsemen are. Oh, Anthony Henry and JD Drake. They gave the match on Bleacher Report a D. Kingston and Hook got the win. But I think this is going to be a little interesting as we go forward with AEW, and I'll explain why in just a little bit. Next up, we had, and again, this is all pre-show stuff so far, as far as I can tell. CMLL World Trios Championship, El Sky Team versus the Don Callis family. So the three members were Kazuchika Okada, Konosuke Takeshita, and Hechicero versus Josh Alexander. Versus Mystico, El Principe, De Plata. I can't with the names. Sorry. But Mystico, Dorado, and Neon beat Hechicero, Okada, and Takeshita by submission to retain. I have a problem here, folks, and I didn't watch the match, but winning by submission in a 6-man tag match, how's that even fucking possible? Because you have to assume someone is going to jump in the ring and hit the other person before they have a chance to tap out, right? Like, I'm not making that up. That just sounds like how that works. Anyways. The tailgate brawl is finally over. We start the pay-per-view with Darby Allin versus Pac. Now, I'm going to start by saying this. Last week I went on a rant because of Blood and Guts, talking about how Darby Allin said that he's going to take everything away from Jon Moxley. Okay? So I guess Tony Khan did not think Darby Allin deserves to take everything away from Jon Moxley, because not only did he not beat Jon Moxley in any of those matches, he got the shit beat out of him in all those matches. He got set on fire in one of those matches. And now he goes up against Pac, who beats him in this match. What was the point of bringing Darby Allin? Like, did they bring Darby Allin back to be just a little bit better than Speedball Mike Bailey? Like when Speedball's in a match, I know he's not winning, but at least it's going to look good. Darby Allin is one of your top guys, and yet can't beat any of your top guys. And now he's beating the 5th guy in a group of 5 guys. Pac hasn't even been around. Is that why he got the win? Oh, he wasn't around, so we wanted people to remember who he was? Well, then you would have given Darby Allin a fucking win, because Darby Allin hasn't won since he got back. Maybe once. And while this match was probably really, really good, Pac winning, to me, when you're trying to, when the narrative just 3 months ago was Darby Allin's trying to take everything away from Jon Moxley, and he's been in matches with Jon Moxley almost every week since, to have him lose to an underling in that group, as well as Jon Moxley, means that he's not where you thought he was. Timeless Love Bombs, which I believe is Timeless Tony Storm and Mina Shirakawa, versus the Sisters of Sin, who I'm not sure who the Sisters of Sin are. The Babes of Wrath, who are Harley Cameron and Willow Nightingale. And then finally we just get 2 of them with their names, Megan Bayne and Marina Shafir. And as if no one could have anticipated, the wrong team went over here. And I'm gonna stress that. I'm gonna say it again. The wrong team went over here. I love Toni Storm. I can't stop watching Mina Shirakawa with that little shake and dance that she does. I even like that they did a dance to come out to the ring. The fact that you can't put Harley Cameron over even in a fucking tag team match to win a title is bullshit. Oh, they got the win against Mercedes and Athena. Sure, they didn't beat Mercedes in that match. They beat your formerly unbeatable champion, who's been Ring of Honor Women's Champion for 1,080 days or whatever. But that's because who else is in the women's division in Ring of Honor? Because you couldn't even let Red Velvet keep the television title over there. So that's bad booking decision number 2 on the main card, and we're only in match 2. Okay? Bad booking decision number 3, maybe not, although I think so. World Tag Team Championships, Brodito versus FTR. FTR goes over in this match. Even so, Bleacher Report gave this match an A. I saw the highlights of this match. It was amazing. But even Bleacher Report had this to say: it's a shame that Brodito's title reign is over, but hopefully AEW will continue to highlight them individual and as a unit. 100%. They are the highlight of the tag team division this year. There's no doubt about it. I think that when they got put together, they were like, let's fucking go. And then they did. And it blew people's minds. And that's why I think they beat the Young Bucks and ended up winning the tag team titles in the first place. Them losing to FTR is a storyline moment. I get it. I would have preferred to actually see Brodito continue with the tag team championships. But now, even though it didn't happen here at this event, I think that it's going to lead to Christian and Cope versus FTR for the tag team titles. And we'll see what happens there. At one point, Bandito slammed Brody King. So, wow. Casino Gauntlet Battle Royal match for the National Championship, which, by the way, Tony Khan completely stole the visual of what the NWA National Championship looked like for the belt. It is almost 100%, except it says AEW on it. This match started out interesting because you had Bobby Lashley and Shelton Benjamin as the first two competitors in it. And obviously, with them being tag team partners and in the same group, they didn't necessarily want to attack each other, but they did start grappling, so it was interesting to watch. A couple other people end up in the match. Ricochet slipped in at the end, catching Kevin Knight with the Spirit Gun for the victory. So Ricochet is your first ever national champion. After it, he said WWE didn't believe in him. And I don't 100% agree with that. But here's where I'll say something about this. And Michael and whoever else in the audience, please chime in if you want to here. When Ricochet was in NXT, he was highlighted every week. When he moved up to the main roster, they started calling him the one and only. And at some point, something happened where it did seem like the booking decisions around Ricochet changed supremely. They definitely changed. And it seemed like everything they were doing was to still highlight him, but he was never going to be more than a U.S. champion or anything. But he goes to AEW, and instead of being the one and only, he's the one of many, because he's doing the same thing everybody else is doing over there. They immediately put him in a feud with Will Ospreay that he loses. Then they put him in one with Swerve that he loses. Then they put him in one with the Hurt Syndicate, which he loses. But at least he's finding his way as a character at that point. But then he wins the national championship, which is using the same themes of the international championship. It'll be defended on multiple continents and in different companies and blah, blah, blah. But it's not a world championship. It's going to be looked at as a secondary belt, which is as high as he got in WWE. So him thinking that they believe more in him in AEW when they had to create a belt to give to him because they just give championships to everybody now. I don't understand why he thinks that he's believed in more in AEW. Not going to say it's a bad booking decision here. I really think that he's put in the work to get himself over enough to where winning a title was something that should happen. So I'm okay with that. Then we get a no-holds-barred match. Well, a no-holds-barred match when Jon Moxley versus Kyle O'Reilly is involved I get why Kyle O'Reilly would like a no holds barred match, because Kyle O'Reilly uses holds. He uses wrestling moves. Jon Moxley just hits you. And I saw highlights from this match too. And my favorite highlight of this match, because they decided to make it into a wrestling match. An old school wrestling Donnybrook. Punches were thrown, holds were used, and wrestling moves were all over the place. At one point during the match, the crowd started a double chant. And the double chant, because the crowd really was not into this match. And this is probably 4 hours into the pay-per-view because of the tailgate brawl. During this match, the chant went to, "This is awesome." And then there was another chant that followed it that said, "No, it isn't." And I can't make this up. The crowd chanted, "This is awesome. No, it isn't." And from watching the highlights, I would have been very disappointed with this match. There were 2 points in the match where the crowd really started getting involved, and it involved a steel chain and it involved a fork. Which, by the way, while no holds are barred, that doesn't mean illegal objects can be used. Like in the term itself, no holds barred, it means you can use the pile driver if it's illegal. You can use the throw someone over the top rope if that's illegal. You can do any of those moves that have been package pile driver, looked at as too devastating, so we're not going to use it. No holds barred, you can do it. Crippler crossface, whatever, all these moves, not banned tonight. But a fork would be. Because a fork isn't a hold. A steel chain isn't a hold. The rules didn't make sense. And by the way, I've said it a million times before, and now I want to go ahead and say, Kyle O'Reilly wins this match. Jon Moxley looks like he's giving him props, being like, "Hey, show of respect because you won, and you actually made me tap out." But then Jon Moxley beats him up afterwards, and all I can think is one of two things. Either one, Jon Moxley beat him up because he was embarrassed that Kyle O'Reilly couldn't walk out on his own accord, even though he won the match, but Jon Moxley could, showing that Jon Moxley's still the real man in that element. Or two, he looked at his Death Riders, and his Death Riders looked upset at him, so he turned around and said, "Oh, no, now I'm going to go beat him up." Which, I'm going to take like 3 minutes at the end of this. I can't believe I've actually gone the hour and a half already, by the way, folks. It just doesn't make sense to me. Again, the no holds barred thing, but allowing illegal objects also doesn't make sense to me because it's not what the stipulation was. Bleacher Report gave the match an A- and said that they can't see anyone in AEW doing this kind of a match unless Kyle O'Reilly or Zack Sabre Jr. had been involved. That's not exactly true. I could see this match being done with okay, I'll give a couple names. How about an AJ Styles? I could see this match being done with him. I could see Seth Rollins doing this kind of match. I could see Will Ospreay doing this kind of match. I could see. I definitely could see Zack Sabre Jr. and Kyle O'Reilly both having this kind of match. So if Blitzball Champ you're watching, or you watch this later in the week, I give you your props. Yes, Kyle O'Reilly is that good of a technical wrestler to be able to have this kind of match. I'm trying to think who else in today's wrestling. I mean, there's some women that could have actually had this kind of match where it was a catch as catch can style. Like, let's keep rolling with it. This would be where I would say Mercedes Moné would actually be one of the best. I would also put a Charlotte Flair, Becky Lynch, Bailey, absolutely. Any of them, I could see any of them having this kind of match as well. So there are even women that can have this kind of match. Tony Storm could have this kind of. In fact, Tony Storm's built to have this kind of match if they wanted to actually put on a 30-minute display of pro wrestling. So Bleacher Report said that commentary sold that the no holds barred stipulation was chosen to specifically clarify what kind of illegal moves could be utilized. Interesting. But that brings us to our next match, which is the TNT Championship match between Kyle Fletcher and Mark Briscoe, and they decided to go no DQ. So here's why I have an issue with the no DQ match in AEW. Because at this point in 6 years of AEW wrestling, and I'm not making this up, there have only been, I think, 6 disqualification finishes. That averages out to 1 a year. So why not just make all matches no disqualification or enforce disqualifications? The fact is that more often than not, the referee turns around, sees whatever's happening happen anyway, and should be a disqualification. They just don't do it. But the other part of the stipulation of this match was if Kyle Fletcher lost, he loses this championship. If Mark Briscoe wins, if Mark Briscoe loses, he has to join the Don Callis family and leave the conglomeration. If you haven't read the results yet, anybody want to take a guess at who won this match? There were weapons all over the place. There was a froggy bow thrown. But in the end, they were 4 hours in. What should they do? Michael, I they should just make it a 4-hour show total, not a 7-hour show. Like, I get that Tony Khan's trying to give you your money's worth, but he's overbooking, and you could probably keep people more invested if you didn't throw 4 matches on your pre-show brawl that really no one cares about. Like, so that's just my feeling on that. But Mark Briscoe wins this match and wins the TNT Championship, so he doesn't have to join the Don Callis family, thank God, because there's already too many people in it. And wins the TNT Championship. After the match, I think it was during the scrum, he actually talked about how he had almost given up on wrestling entirely because when his brother passed away, he thought he couldn't do it by himself. And now he's holding the second biggest championship in AEW. And I'll continue to say that the TNT Championship is the second biggest championship in AEW because that's what it's been all along. I think it's the Collision champion normally. So that's what we'll go with. Next matchup was an interesting match. It was Jurassic Express and Kenny Omega versus the Young Bucks and Josh Alexander. Obviously, if the Young Bucks were going to win this match, you would think that they're joining the Don Callis family. And they played up to that through most of the match because I guess as competitors, they don't care who their opponents are. But after the match, the Young Bucks are leaving with the money, and because the Young Bucks and Josh Alexander won the match. And the Don Callis family starts beating up Kenny Omega, and Jurassic Express tries to make the save, but there's too many people in the Don Callis family. So the Young Bucks start super kicking everybody, and they rejoin Kenny Omega to a big surprise, big applause. And I guess we have babyface elite now, which is kind of weird. But, maybe we'll get to see the Young Bucks sit there and say something interesting about it. Gave the match a B+. Don Callis obviously was on commentary for it. Women's World Title match: Chris Statlander versus Mercedes Moné. Once again, if you guys want, I'll give you like 30 seconds to determine who you thought won this match if you haven't already read the results. I'm not really going to give you 30 seconds, but I'll give you a little bit of time. Keep in mind, earlier this week, Mercedes Moné won another title when she captured the actual Ring of Honor women's television title to go with her TBS championship and like the 19 other nobody cares championships that she's got. And I say nobody cares because I've never heard of 18 of those 19 companies. So again, I was talking about this just a little while ago. Michael pointed out that, at 4 hours into the pay-per-view, how do you keep going? And what do you want the fans to do? Well, the fans were waning in this match. They actually, you could tell they were just exhausted. And unfortunately, that's what happens when you do 6 and 7 hour pay-per-views. So she started pulling out different moves and different things to try to get the fans into it, and it worked. And it's interesting because it did actually get the crowd behind Mercedes Moné. And, when we went to Blood and Guts, I saw how a bunch of people in the crowd were actually all about doing the CEO dance and everything else. And not me, but it's nice to see that someone who's, there making all that money is actually making a difference for some other people. But surprisingly, Chris Statlander defeated her by pinfall to retain her world championship. I want to point out that last year at Full Gear, Mercedes Moné beat Chris Statlander for the TBS championship. So Chris Statlander has cemented herself by beating both Toni Storm and Mercedes Moné in the same year to show that she really has stepped up and become one of the top stars in AEW. Sorry about that. Those things keep coming out of nowhere. I think I'm going to do it again. Nope. I think I'm good. And for once, they finally got the women's... I'd say they got the booking of the women's match in terms of the timing and where it actually happened on the card correct. It went on right before the main event of the night, the men's match. Now, granted, if you had told me that Mercedes versus Chris Statlander was going to be the main event, I would have been okay with it. But I do think the best story in AEW for the past little while was Hangman Page and Samoa Joe. Now, this match basically had the callings of a car crash because it was in a steel cage. Samoa Joe ended up about as bloody as Sky Blue at Blood and Guts. And all of the ops came down to make sure that Samoa Joe won this match. Swerve Strickland came down to help. Swerve came down to help Hangman, which was a little surprising. Brought Prince Nana with him. Don't know what he was expecting Nana to do against the ops. And then it happened. Hook came running down to the ring, and we know that recently Hook has been saying that he's got problems with the ops, and he's even been in matches against them and everything else. They've beaten him pretty hard. And Hook tries to wake up the referee, picks up the belt, and slams Hangman Adam Page directly in the forehead. Takes the jacket off, revealing that he's back with the ops. And Samoa Joe is now your 4th two-time AEW champion. I want to repeat myself and say that again. Samoa Joe is now your 4th two-time AEW world champion. And I don't think originally that's what Tony Khan had any idea of doing. And then when he saw how much work Samoa Joe was putting in during that opportunity against Adam Page, the first match, he then came back and said, I'm putting the strap back on you. And I don't know how long he'll carry it. I would anticipate when MJF comes back, MJF will come back as the babyface going up against the Ops. And you see MJF take the belt off Samoa Joe, but I don't know if that's World's End. I don't know if that's, like the way that I would do it is I would actually have the Ops versus Swerve, Hangman, and MJF, and have 3 members of the Ops versus those 3 at World's End, and whoever gets the pinfall gets the world title shot against Samoa Joe. That's how I would book that. If you booked it that way, then all 3 of them could be out if they lose the match, but if they win that match, whoever wins the match for them gets the title shot. And that causes some discerning moment between all 3 of them. Like, they're like, we'll work together, but I'm getting the win. No, I'm getting the win. And all of a sudden you have like that whole hostility thing going. So this Wednesday night's going to be interesting because, Monet didn't beat Statlander. Mark Briscoe's your new TNT champion, which might be held off until Collision. And Samoa Joe is now a 2-time AEW champion. Like, it's interesting. But Moxley cut a promo saying that he goes back to work on Wednesday. And you've heard us on this show multiple times say that Jon Moxley needs a break. The entire Death Riders need a break, or the Death Riders need a shuffle. Like, kick Moxley out of the group, have him go away for 2 months. Have Claudio become the leader of the group. I'd be fine with that. Let him finally show that like, you paid all this money to have him there instead of WWE, and like, let him show that he can do it. I don't know. I will say at this point, folks, I am talked out. And not only am I talked out, but I am thankful for you sticking with me for this hour and 40 something minutes. I had a blast. I know if Tino wanted to be here, just has stuff going on with his family, like I said. Hopefully he's here next week. If not, we'll do it again. We'll run it back. But I want to thank everybody in the audience for being you. Michael, thank you so much for keeping me entertained with the comments. And you can follow him on his socials at SC Tino or Tino Gray Music. You can follow the Potsy and Tino Show on X at Potsy and Tino. You can follow me on just about everything at either at Rob Pochak, which you see right there, or at Rob Potsy, Pochak, Potsy. And then on Twitter, I am Pochak. So, folks, thank you so much. I hope you have a wonderful Thanksgiving. Just be good to each other. And as I said, we love you. Jones, all that good stuff. And we should be here next week. We will be here next week. I just don't know if it'll just be me, if it'll be me and him. But we will have a show next week. So I will see you then. And like I said, happy Thanksgiving. Enjoy your football and your turkey. Till next time.
Ready? Yeah. Ownership contributes to the Potsy and Tino.
For the Potsy and Tino Show.
Thanks for watching.
Monday night, it's time to Show. Drop the facts and let opinions flow. Laughs, hot takes, and maybe a rant. Two best buds with a mic and a plan. From the square circle to the comic racks, they're throwing chairs and spitting facts like they had 8. They'll likely be late. Grab a drink and speculate. It's the Potsy and Tino Show. Drop the facts and let opinions flow. Laughs, hot takes, and maybe a rant. Two best buds with a mic and a plan. From the squared circle to the comic racks, they're throwing chairs and spitting facts like that it ain't. They'll likely be late. Grab a drink and speculate. It's the Potsy and Tino Show. Breaking it down with the pop culture glow. News, reviews, and a story or two. You never know what they're gonna do. So comment, subscribe, and like. It's time to roll with Potsy and Tino. Let's go!